There you go. Good morning, everyone. This is Joe Scarice. Welcome to the Creative Birth Strategies House and live on the Creative Birth Strategies podcast. Very excited about this morning. Episode 2. Episode 1 was an interview with Joseph Martel, one of our moderators. So very excited about this. We're going to get started. I'll be inviting everybody in and getting started here in just a few minutes. So let's take a little bit to get people in here and get started. Start inviting people in. What a great week, very busy week. Hopefully I'll have some updated announcements on some of the things that are going on in my world on the lending side. But we're going to get started here, get rocking. And today's discussion is, what is your favorite real estate strategy? So pretty excited about that. Please mic Jim, thank you. Jim, please mic. There you go. Thank you very much. So we'll get started here in just a few minutes. And again, we're live here on the Creative Birth Strategies podcast as well, live from the Newbold Exchange here in South Philadelphia. So just give me a few minutes. I'll get everybody set up and we'll get rocking here in just a few minutes. Alrighty. Today's subject I'm really excited about. We'll be pouring into, really, what is your favorite real estate strategy as a real estate professional, as a real estate service? What's your why? We'll invite some individuals up as well. Oh, we see Prof T. There we go. Get that going here in a few minutes. Good morning, Prof T. So we'll get started here. First, we're going to start off with always a little background. My name is Joe Scarice. I'm a nationwide direct private lender. I provide insight, strategy for real estate professionals throughout the country, nationally. We've been on this Clubhouse app, under this club, for close to over 2 years. I'm happy to celebrate that we just launched our live podcast on Apple and Spotify. It'll be hitting Apple and Spotify, I think, by Monday, and everything will be going live from there. We will be doing the live podcast of this podcast on Apple and Spotify on every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. So from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., the subject that we're going to be discussing will be live also on our podcast. So I just want to give you a little bit of update. So let's get started with the news. I always like to start off with Mortgage News Daily, which is one of my favorite little article sites that we like to go with. Get that posted up here as well. I love getting some news here. I usually post typically some good content and information on the market day to day, probably an article every other day from Mortgage News Daily on my sites, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads, Alignable. So please follow me on those as well. So today's articles that caught my eye this week was building materials price growth plummets in 2023. Now we're starting to see a surge in some permits in certain markets throughout the country, but the price growth is slowing down. We're starting to see some material costs, materials slowing down, pushing out through the stores. Again, there's some caution on heavy rehab right now. A lot of my investors are sticking with more the lighter rehab. They're not doing full guts to the studs. They're staying under 50% of the purchase price based on the repair cost. So that's an interesting article to read, but that's on Mortgage News Daily this morning. Rates closed out around 6.69 on the base rate for the conventional side, really reflecting on the commercial side. You're probably somewhere between 7 and 7.75 on rate in regards to the commercial lines. I'm seeing rates starting as low as 6.99 in the commercial lending space. But again, it's all based on certain criteria: loan to value, credit score, experience of the borrower, the asset type. In the asset-based lending space, everything is looked at a little differently than in the commercial traditional space. So again, we're going to move on to some other articles that caught my eye. I always like to look at DS News as well. DS News is another great site of information. I went to one of the DS News events last year at the 5-Star Conference, and I found that they put out some really good articles on a daily basis. So I like to always pin that up and get that going there as well. And one of the articles that caught my eye this week, which I posted as well, 2023 U.S. foreclosure activity snapshot. Some of the typical character states are still seeing some high foreclosure starts on the rise nationwide. California is number 1, Texas is number 2, number 3 is Florida, number 4 is New York, and then number 5 is Illinois. Obviously you have Chicago, you have New York and California, which are heavy weighted properties. I think when I saw the presentation by Andrew Yoon from the National Association of Realtors this past week, he basically said San Francisco is basically bombed out at this point. It's one of the most horrendous commercial retail spaces in the country in regards to any form of growth. So, no surprise in those foreclosures. Now, some of where some of the foreclosures where you saw the greatest number, again, foreclosures: New York, Chicago, even Houston's on there, Los Angeles, and Philadelphia is actually creeping up. They had about 8,224 foreclosures coming up. Let's see over here. Let's see, states with the highest foreclosure rates here. Let's see here. Rounding out some of the other foreclosure states, South Carolina's creeping up a little bit, Nevada's creeping up a little bit, Connecticut's creeping up a little bit, Indiana's creeping up a little bit. Some of the more metropolitan cities you got to keep an eye on: Cleveland, Atlantic City, Lakeland, Florida, Columbia, South Carolina, and Fayetteville, North Carolina. So let's dive into our subject this morning. What is your favorite real estate strategy? So, is it value add? Is it opportunistic? Is it core? So you got to think about what are you really trying to do in your space? Are you trying to do private lending? Are you trying to be a service provider? Where is your why in your real estate strategy? So for me, over the past 30 years, I've been a licensed real estate agent in New Jersey and PA since 1988, licensed banker since 2001. Been in the investment space since 1994, bought my first property. Our family has currently 97 doors in the multifamily space. Post about 5 years ago, I sold off our single family through 4-family residential space, a portfolio. We're holding the paper back because some markets just didn't have a matured management presence, and you had to have more presence in the self-managing area, and it was more of a day-to-day operations. Now, where some of those properties were in that single family space, there's a lot more management presence. So one big thing I see, whatever real estate strategy you want to go with, it coincides with, do you want to self-manage or do you want to not self-manage? Do you want to identify a property management and maintenance group to allow yourself to grow within the industry? Whether it's single family through 4-family, whether it's 5+ units. Typically we have Joe Martella on here, one of our great mods. He's away at Mr. Landlord's event in Punta Cana. And he manages 5 of his properties. He's okay, but he knows if he gets 10 properties, it's going to get a little out of reach, where it's going to be more of a complication. So you really need to kind of weigh out the cost benefit of, your real estate strategy sounds really good, but if you're not taking into account different moving factors when it comes to management of that asset following the ownership and stabilization of that property, you're going to run into some issues, of course. Good morning, Ms. Prof T, and welcome. Brief overview: who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning. What is your real estate strategy?
Good morning, everybody. Hi, Joe. This is Teresa Augustinelli, everyone, otherwise known as Prof T from Philly. Joe, it was good to see you the other night. Always love talking with Joe at events. So I am actually a professional speaker. I am also a corporate speaker. I speak to anything that has to do with mindset mastery, emotional intelligence, how to find people to be part of your network, and most importantly, what I'm most proud of is being able to help people with their presence. There's a lot to be said for how you appear physically, mentally, emotionally, as well as socially. So social media is a big thing right now. People don't understand the value of their presence, their Google searches, their all of their internet searches. So important. If I Googled any of you right now, let me ask you what would come up. So if I can't find you, how do you expect anyone else to find you? So, and I'll land with this. My husband and I are real estate investors. My husband is with Keller Williams, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. We are also private money lenders, and we love helping people elevate and excel, get to the next level. What I believe for real estate, my best strategy is face-to-face meetings, going to networking events, and finding yourself a good tribe of people, a circle of people that do what you do, that do it better than you, and that can help you be excellent. Thanks, Joe. Back to you.
Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, I mean, listen, Teresa, we've known each other over several years. How many years have we known each other?
We met before the pandemic, I believe, so it's probably about 7 or 8 years, hasn't it been? Yeah, I ate peanuts at a networking event. I stole your peanuts.
Yeah, we almost went at it, right? I almost remember that like it was yesterday, if you think about it, right?
That was hilarious. But hey, we hit it off immediately. You and your wife, my husband and I, we just, we are all simpatico. And you know what, Joe? I think that I learned this from you. You got to be out there, man. You've got to be out there. You've got to be seen if you want to be seen. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, so we were at a networking event. What was your take on the level of how do you think people were thinking about what the market's like right now? Did you get a take from the real estate service there? I mean, a lot of third-party service providers there, not a lot of investors, but what are the third-party service providers saying to you? I mean, they probably, confide in you because you're a coach. So, what are they saying to you, and what's their thoughts going through their head?
That's a really good question. I think it's mixed, and yes, I am a coach, and I do coach people. What I'm seeing now is a lot of people were starting to jump ship and give up. I think it depends on who you talk to. I mean, you're going to talk to lenders. They're going to tell you everything's going to be okay. Some lenders are telling you don't do it. Some real estate agents are saying stick with it. Some are saying no, it's never going to come back. Interest rates are lowered. This is my personal opinion and my gut instinct from that event the other night. I think people are starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and I think people are a little bit more open now to start diving into some deals. I do see things are selling, and I do see, as well as interest rates are coming down, Joe, I do see that some housing prices are coming down. And I heard you say Philadelphia. I'm seeing things move in Philadelphia and New Jersey. That's my take. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so it got me in the right direction. See, I work with several clients that are very active in the Pennsylvania and New Jersey market. I do work nationally, but my offices are in Philadelphia. Just like Philadelphia and a lot of the other urban cities I've been to, I'm seeing decreased values right now. I'm seeing anywhere between 12 to 18% decreased value or listing prices on properties in almost every market in the country, in the urban cities. And another thing I'm noticing is that Section 8 is now becoming more prominent in these urban cities than the market rent. As a lot of these urban cities throughout the country become more tenant friendly and less landlord friendly, and there's not a happy middle, I think landlords are steering toward more the guaranteed, Willy Wonka ticket, and looking at the opportunity that they're going to get at least 90 cents on the dollar from their rent, instead of dealing with the market rent and professional tenants that might jeopardize their vacancy, their property itself, the infrastructure, the time of eviction, just the whole stress of a market rent individual. I think the market renter knows more of the laws, the workarounds that can keep them in a property without paying for a much longer state of time if you're not proficient with what you're doing as a landlord. And that's where it comes back to, do you, in your real estate strategy, whatever favorite one you want, and whatever one you're looking at, 1 family through 4 family, 5+ units, mixed use, is it a business or a mixed, is it a multifamily with a light mixed use space? You're gonna owner occupy that space, or you're gonna do new construction? Are you going to work just lines of credit and be a private lender? I mean, there's different things you got to think about. What is your favorite real estate strategy? right? What is a real estate portfolio? I mean, simply a real estate portfolio is a collection of real estate investment assets, a comprehensive document that details your past and present real estate investments. You know, how to build a real estate portfolio, right? Whatever it is, you have to start small. All right, you don't want to try for anything too ambitious when you first get started building your real estate portfolio. When you just start out, you have to learn, including how to increase property's value and how to manage tenants and more. You need to understand to put the right deferred maintenance protections in that unit if you're going to hold that property long term. Consider also exponential rather than linear increasing to the portfolio. What does exponential growth mean? Exponential growth refers to the pattern of data that shows greater increases over time. For example, let's say you invest into a coastal market, wherever it is, West Coast or East Coast. Housing pricing gains might help you realize higher rates of appreciation in those areas, but the housing bust can occur more often in those areas. In contrast, linear markets see flatter growth over time. These markets show smooth, steady growth and do not see major spikes or declines. Booms and busts virtually never occur. I'll give you some examples. You have to look at the cash-on-cash return. You got to look at the opportunity of the long-term play. What is the 30-year fixed in that scenario? An average client doesn't really do something with their property where they sell or refinance on an average of 7 years. So if the money makes sense on the debt service coverage ratio and the cash-on-cash return makes sense on that property, you need to look at what needs to be done to that property to make sure that you're maximizing the most amount of cash flow on that property. Learn your local market. Understand your neighborhoods. Understand your communities. Understand your neighborhoods. Understand your markets. I've visited approximately 25 different rental markets throughout the country this past year. I understand from a local level what they're going through, what their frustrations are, and a lot of them are the same. General contractor availability, material costs, availability of real estate stock to buy and obtain and renovate. I mean, that's probably the biggest complaint. You know, the lesser experienced borrower, oh, what's the rate? What's the rate? The rate is, listen, if you buy correctly, whatever real estate professional, with whatever real estate property you buy, the rate is irrelevant, because if it's going to cash flow, it could be any rate. If you buy smart, you're going to make an unbelievable amount of money in return on your investment, whatever the market rent is at that time, or rate is at that time. So first, understand your local market and take detailed notes when going to these real estate investor group meetings, landlord association meetings, industry meetings. Take notes to what people are telling you what's going on in the market. Like when I went to see Lawrence Yoon discussing the market nationally at a presentation, he's the chief economist of National Association of Realtors. He gave a very honest approach to what's really going on. He was in a room of commercial real estate industry professionals, not residential, where you cater and you coddle and tell them everything's going to be just fine. This was hardcore commercial office retail industry professionals. So he could not bullshit people, okay? He had to be very honest with what's going on in the market, vacancy issue. Now there's massive vacancy issues throughout the country in all these office buildings and mixed use buildings. Now is that going to be a great opportunity for conversions? Is that going to be for something like for yourself? Probably not. That's going to be more of an institutional acquisition. But for the individual landlord, the individual investor, you need to look at those surrounding areas and how do you justify and make money from that, right? And research your financing options. Understanding debt service coverage ratio, understanding cash on cash return, understanding what rehab and construction looks like, understanding what your portfolio looks like now. Is your portfolio making money? Is your portfolio making money? I just did a full underwrite for a client this past week. He owns 50 properties. I identified 3 properties that he was losing money on, and he did not realize that. Think about that. He owns 50 properties. He's losing several $100s a month on 3 of them and was not aware of that. Okay, all I did was a quick underwrite looked at all his books, and better understood what he was doing with his properties. Understanding the 1% rule. You must know your numbers, track every expense, and identify which numbers rise to the top and know the numbers you need to work on. Know the 1% rule, a rule of thumb for measuring the price of an investment property against the gross income it generates. You can use it quickly to determine how the property should generate cash to make money or help you determine what you should charge in a monthly rent. Understanding economic occupancy, understanding your return on investment, understanding improving the costs, understanding monthly operating costs. We still stick with our ladies this morning as gentlemen. Fania, good morning and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion. What is your favorite real estate strategy? Fania, can you un-mic? It's our first time here. We had a wonderful conversation yesterday and I invited her into the room. There's a little mic to the right that you could un-mic if you want to. Go right ahead if you can figure that out. We'll come back to you, Fania. Good morning, Courtney. Long time no see. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to your discussion. What is your favorite real estate strategy?
Hey everyone, good morning. Courtney Fricke here, creative real estate investor out of New Orleans, Louisiana. Been doing this for 10 years, and I've done a lot of different strategies. And also, I've done other things. Look, I founded a real estate investor meetup in my area, and so then I get to see a lot of people doing a lot of different things in the industry. And by and large, my favorite strategy is buying nice houses in nice areas. So great properties, great assets with seller financing. That is my favorite type of deal, where the seller is my long-term financer of the property, right? They're not lending me the money, but they're letting me buy it on payments over time, right? And it's a great asset. It's a keeper. It's one that I want to keep. I want to have in my portfolio for a long time. That is by and large my favorite strategy. And that's buy and hold. It's at the end of the day, that is the key to me getting more freedom and peace. And so the more and more I do that, look, I consider myself a recovering flipper and wholesaler. And don't get me wrong, the money is good. I've got a very solid wholesale deal closing on Tuesday morning, right after the holiday. And it's every now and then I still do them, and it allows me to go to conferences. It pays for my overhead for the company and stuff. But at the end of the day, what I really enjoy is that first of the month money that keeps coming in from great tenants being in great assets, and they're paying them off for me, right? They're helping me pay down that debt, and then providing me that residual income every month when it's performing.
Courtney, what have you seen at your local REIA? What's your average attendance right now? Do you do once a month? Do you do a luncheon? What's the makeup of your REIA?
Yeah. We just had our meeting on Tuesday night. I think we had 70 people in the room.
Okay, and
something along those lines.
So it's anywhere from the newer investor to the expert. So your thoughts. What are they saying? What's the vibe right now in your market? Is it still a good strong barrier of entry? Are people still buying properties and holding them? Are they trying to flip? What's some of their strategy?
Well, Zillow just came out with their 2024 predictions. So if you guys don't know Zillow, their estimate is crap, but their market data is pretty decent. And they put out their 2024 prediction for the top 50 cities in the U.S. And New Orleans is ranked as the worst market for 2024 in their prediction. And because of what we've seen, we got hit pretty hard. Zillow's predicting we're going to have a 6% value drop in 2024. I don't disagree with them. New Orleans has a lot of factors right now that are hurting our market. So obviously there's the general stuff, interest rates, low demand, inflation, things like that. But we have we had major, major events. We have a hurricane from 2021 that we're still seeing impacts from, where, we have high insurance cost. For example, I have a duplex, $175,000 duplex that my insurance is $8,500 a year on to cover it. And this is not like flood insurance. This is like wind insurance and stuff, right? That's killing deals. But then 2024 is the reassessment year for Louisiana for the property taxes. And I think, there's a few other factors. We have heavy regulation with Airbnb in the city of New Orleans. There's other things happening. And so what we're seeing is in our market, there are some other big reports that came out where we're one of the slowest markets in the top 50 cities. And it's because a lot of those factors, right? Affordability with the 2024, the reassessment of the property taxes. And we do it every 4 years. So the last time our property taxes got reassessed was in 2020. And so, Justin, this will apply to you guys up there too in Baton Rouge. But, I was speaking at an event, and the newly elected insurance commissioner was there, and I was on a panel, and I was trying not to argue with him, but I said, sir, what are you doing about the property tax, situation? And he had no idea what was going on. I said, look, you're over here trying to make insurance affordable, and look, I'm going to applaud you for that effort. But understand, at the same time, everyone's mortgages are jumping up because of insurance increases. They're about to jump up again with, the property tax hike. And so you've got to do this level of like collaborating and cooperating with all the tax assessors and collectors and seeing what you can do to minimize, because what we're seeing is a lot on the affordability side for homeowners is really forcing, defaults. It's forcing people to sell when they may not need to sell, or, generally would have needed to or wanted to. But that affordability part is very hyper localized right now with the state of Louisiana, especially southern Louisiana. And that's causing issues. So what that's doing is it is literally causing it to be cheaper to rent than it is to own, which people are saying mainstream, but very true on, in our area. So then what you have to be careful of, there are a lot of investors that, because of the increases of their costs that they didn't have in their, strategies before, that they didn't plan for, they're now either cash flowing less, breaking even, or at, worse, losing money. And that is causing a lot of investors. So my number one phone call right now is investor rescue phone calls. People that are having issues that it's taken longer. Right now it's taken like 3 months to rent out properties on average. Hey, look, I've got these properties, they're not renting. I can't afford the mortgages. So, and I'll land my plane here. It's causing a lot of the new investors to sit down, or the ones who did deals recently, to reach out to say, hey, help me, please. I don't have the reserves. I don't have XYZ. Or I structured a deal and it's going bad. And, flips, right? They're taking longer. They're having to make more concessions. And what you're seeing is a lot of the experienced investors are standing up and saying, now is the time. There's blood in the streets. Now is the time. But obviously the way that you can play offense right now is to also play defense. And so that means, lower prices and so deeper discounts and honestly cash in the bank is what's going to allow you to survive right now. So that's kind of what we're seeing. And it's pretty wild right now. And so it's been very interesting times.
Thank you, Courtney. A really good number to keep in mind, the average mortgage right now, PITI, principal, interest, tax, and insurance, nationally is about $2,500. The average rent which is now leveling off or decreasing in some markets throughout the country, is 1,800. Your millennial and or Gen Z are looking at that and saying to myself, why would I want to own something where I could lose value over the next 24 to 36 months? I don't know what 10 years is going to look like from now or 15 years from now. Why don't I just let somebody else take care of me in one of these eat, work, and live environments? I have all the conveniences of working virtually, walking downstairs to my shopping store, walking downstairs to my gym, walking my dog on the make-believe green upstairs. I mean, these are things that I can just do and just have no stress whatsoever, and allow either an institutional landlord or a regular landlord with a single family through a 4-family or 5+ unit address my needs. You know, and you're seeing that more often. And then what you're also seeing is low-income housing infiltrating all the urban markets, as people are scared of living in the cities at this point based on high crime, okay, and really just some really crazy stuff that goes on in some of these cities. You know, closures, a lot of mixed-use storefronts closures. A friend of mine, he said he just came back from Finland, and he came back and he's like, he saw 6 more major stores closed. I mean, so, you know, you want to live in an area you feel comfortable in. And then in the suburban settings where I'm seeing they're re-flourishing again, where they were getting quiet. You know, you were seeing everybody moving back into the city for the arts, the restaurants, the activities, medical, etc. Now you're seeing this mass exodus back to the suburban or even rural markets, and saying, hey, listen, I'd rather live a little, I like being somewhat near the city, but I'd rather stay outside the city. My wife and I own a facility and building and business in the city of Philadelphia. The business itself is in Old City, which is in a safer neighborhood. It's a quieter neighborhood. I don't think things are going to change much there. So we're going to keep the offices there for the time being. My office here in South Philadelphia, it's based on convenience of location as well. But it's tough to park. You got to keep your eyes open at all times. I mean, you got to keep your eyes open anywhere you go, but I feel like there's a safer setting and a better educational base if you're going to have children, you know, in the suburb markets or the rural markets. So this is the thing. The homeowner, the competition for the owner occupant is the investor now in the suburban markets, because of debt service coverage ratio loans, because of asset-based lending, and the entrepreneur that doesn't need to show tax returns, W-2s, 1099s, or pay stubs, they can go in and buy the property and hold it and basically rent it back to the individual that they outbidded at premium rent. This is another thing. With all these this foreclosure activity, and a lot of these properties are going to come to the market blighted, where they can't be financed by conventional means under Fannie and Freddie guidelines. The only person that could buy these type of properties outside of 203K for FHA, which is a very complicated loan, is the investor. So they're going to buy and renovate these. Some of them will flip, but most will hold. And the individuals that took advantage of the opportunity of rates at 2 or 3%, about 3 or 4 years ago, they're in 15-year loans or 20-year loans or 30-year loans at 2 to 3%. Why would they sell unless they had to? Now, if I was the real estate investor starting out in the 1 through 4 space, I'd be identifying several things. Okay, write this down. I understand my zip codes, and by zip code, where are the free and clear properties? Properties that have no debt. There are data out there that you could identify where there's property opportunities where there's no debt. There's owner financing opportunities, and there's also an opportunity to buy the property just outright when somebody wants to exit that property. Next are the individuals that bought VA or FHA in the last 3 to 4 years. Why? They're at 100% financing. Did they make any equity on those properties if they bought them in the urban settings? No, they're probably decreasing in value by 8 to 10%. The next big one you want to go by zip code, reverse mortgages taken out in the last 3 years. I know it's kind of a sad situation, but somebody that took out a reverse mortgage is either dying, on their way out, hospice, not doing too well, and it's a predatory loan, and they want out. So these are some thoughts how I would look and take advantage of this, as Courtney said, blood on the streets. There's a massive opportunity here as an investor. When there's fear and chaos, there is massive opportunity. Fania, good morning. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and what is your favorite real estate strategy?
Hi guys, I'm sorry, I'm a little technologically challenged. I live here in the St. Augustine, Florida area. It's a very hot market. I'm a realtor, have been, and I've been a real estate investor since college. I had my first rental in college, and I would say that the first things that I do is find someone more knowledgeable than I and glean every bit of information that I can. I find that any kind of being unteachable is probably the biggest killer in any kind of market. I learned from my mentor to focus on areas that have universities and look for distressed, but not very distressed, not just cosmetically distressed or need improvement, and to basically kind of keep a very focused attitude as far as your zip codes. Stay within that area and just be, try to buy without a realtor, which as a realtor, I know that that's something I shouldn't probably say, but to try to decrease a little bit of those, the upfront costs. Every $5 to $10 grand that you can save on the front end will save you majorly in the end, and basically using those university areas, always base it on what you can get annually to make sure that your cash flow is appropriate, but with the idea that you can rent out per bedroom to these college students whose parents will guarantee the rent, who are already paying outrageous amounts for dorms activity, and who would rather be in a home, and you get all the parents to agree, or you can look at it as an Airbnb situation. We have an incredible Airbnb market here. It's so hot. Everybody's coming here. St. Augustine is one of the top places. People come and stay for one night. So I love the idea of having the Airbnb, but I never miss my number on the Airbnb. So I always tell my investors to use the annual income that you can get as the bottom line purchase price, but then with the idea that you can Airbnb, because then you can increase your returns exponentially. But if you have to buckle down and dial it back, you're still going to be okay. And I do understand what you guys are saying about the rent, but the rent here right now, what we're seeing is that the rent is more expensive than having a mortgage. But these newer mortgages, are like with these. I'm excited for the rate drop. I think you guys all are hearing that things are going to kind of bump down here. So anyway, it's kind of an exciting time. Being a buyer's market, it's a little bit frustrating for realtors for sure, but I think there's still lots of opportunity, at least here. And my personal strategy is just to stay very focused on the areas that you know very well, so that you can be an expert in just your area. Because I think it's hard to be an expert in more than that. So that's all I got.
Fania, please stay on mic. I want to thank you. We had a wonderful conversation yesterday, and we talked about Florida, of course, right? I mean, is there still any more room there, or do you think it's cresting?
I think that it has definitely changed. There's less room, but there are still incredible opportunities. There's areas in our town that I always stay very focused on that are just outside of the circle around the university, but that are now adding little cultural, interesting places, yoga studios, breweries, things that's kind of spreading out. So that area is still untapped. Pay attention to all of the codes and the things that you can do in those areas. There are no restrictions regarding Airbnb or having multiple kids rent out one unit. So there's definitely opportunity here, absolutely, and especially with the distressed properties as the barrier to entry increases in the downtown surrounding the university. there's still so much opportunity just outside that, and as it is coming up, it's a place that I'm focusing my attention and personally looking to invest in.
So my last question for you, Airbnb and student housing. Do you think there's, obviously, I think Airbnb has had a nice run, but I think it's become very insulated to very specific markets. Do you see that the individuals that over leverage their properties and expected Airbnb income to support that, and market rent now doesn't support that service? Do you think there's opportunities there as well? And then with student housing, do you still, even as an investor, do you think it's still smart to evaluate the unit as a market rent compared to student housing rent? Because if you miss that window of getting a student or students into that unit, now you're falling into the market rent, and you might not have evaluated or underwrote that unit correctly. So, what's your thoughts on market rent comparatively to the STR and the student housing? Do you think you still should follow the market rent just to make sure you have backup?
I like to tell, I am careful with other people's money. So my advice to them is always going to be, do that, but it's always going to be, do the annual rental, because 1 month without tenants, if you don't have a quick turnover, can crush your year. But especially if you're evaluating for these higher Airbnb, I think there's definitely an issue. There's definitely a problem. People have certainly gone upside down who've taken these Airbnb situations and now suddenly are not having that huge influx like we were having. But I definitely am a little more conservative as far as that's concerned. However, if I know that the property I'm purchasing I can flip versus the cash flow, like the flip flow combination, if I know that this property is going to be able to be sold with a good return, then I am a little more loose. But certainly the 1% rule is kind of what I go for. So
I really appreciate that, Fanny. It was great talking with you yesterday as well.
Likewise, and I'm so grateful to hear your wealth of information.
Thank you. This is Joe Scarice, your founder and host of the Creative Birth Strategies house here on Clubhouse. And I want to thank Clubhouse personally because it motivated me to relaunching our podcast in Apple and Spotify under Creative Birth Strategies. So you could find us now on Apple and Spotify, as well as on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Threads, Twitter, all the different sites and social media buckets. We're pushing it out. This is episode 2. Episode 1 was with a colleague and friend of mine, Joseph Martello, who is calling in from Punta Cana, which is always very interesting. But briefly, I want to discuss some events that are coming up. I know Jim will be discussing about the Denver Mile High Summit. Also, following that great event in Denver, Colorado, where I'll be speaking on a real estate investor mindset on Friday, and then on Saturday, understanding asset-based lending. We have an epic opportunity here in Philadelphia at the Mummer Museum, which is an iconic location in South Philadelphia. We're having a Friday mastermind luncheon, happy hour in the evening. Then we have an all-day educational event on Saturday, following with a mastermind dinner with some of our attendees. The events, the luncheon, the happy hour, and the dinner will be held at Moonshine Philly, which is just 4 blocks away from the Mummer Museum. It's going to be a great event in April, as well as a great follow-up to the Denver event, which I'm so excited with. The things that have come and produced and have given birth through Clubhouse and what they have provided to us. People always ask me, you're still in Clubhouse? Of course I am. I'm using this as an opportunity from a national platform to discuss real estate education with real estate professionals throughout the country, providing insight, providing financing strategies, direction, referrals, whatever I can be of a source to you in what you're going through. We want to be part of that. So we'll now go with our gentleman now. We'll start with Joseph Martello, which was episode 1 to the Creative Birth Strategies podcast. Joseph, good morning and welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and what is your favorite real estate strategy, and how is Mr. Landlord Expo in Punta Cana? Is Joe available to unmic? Going once? Going twice. I think he cannot connect directly through Punta Cana, so we'll just thank him for jumping on. We'll go to Robert. Good morning and welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and what is your favorite real estate strategy?
Good morning, everyone. Robert Hope, resident agent, Asheville, North Carolina. Picking up coffee and we're heading out to Charlotte, visit my sister. But glad to be on stage. Good morning, everyone. For me, it's new construction. The rental market here is 98% occupancy rate. And yes, the rent is just a tad over the mortgage as far as what's going on now, even though the rates are dropping. I think it's at 6.7, something like that. But that's my strategy. Glad to be on stage. The biggest thing is I hadn't gotten to the buy and hold far as or the wholesaling, but I've ended up going to a Asheville meet for the first time this past week to meet up with investors like yourself, Joe, and also like-minded people to build relationships. So glad to be here. Glad to I finally get something going with you, Joe.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to building a strong relationship. Had to check my work schedule on the events coming up, but looking forward to meeting everyone in person.
Sounds great, Robert. And Robert and I, we closed on a new construction for Robert. Robert now is in that space where he can get new construction options. We got him past that second new construction build, and now he has the level of experience to continue. Once he completes that deal, he better go out there and find that next one, because once you get the 2 new constructions completed in your name in the last 24 to 36 months, money becomes very available to keep moving forward in that new construction space. That's where asset-based lending is. There's definitely still some protocol and some boundaries and some guidelines in the asset-based lending space. And you need to sit down with somebody that's been transactional, been through some various economic cycles to better understand what makes sense for you. I'm going to give you a great example. I was working with a client. He's buying a lot of single family through 4 family properties, close to about 150 doors, 175 doors. He decided there's not enough value add multifamily properties in his market. So he decided to start buying motels that were tired, run down, and converting them into Section 8 housing and creating his own multifamily portfolio. We're now on our 4th submission, closing. We just closed on it. The 4th motel, and the first one is now just coming through on a 12-month trail of rent and approved as a Section 8 multifamily building, and it's cash flowing unbelievable. It's like a 15 cap. 18 cap at 60% loan to value, and he has no money into the deal, has a couple $100,000 back, up and above what he has into it, and created his own opportunity for himself in the multifamily space. Think about that. He found a niche that nobody was looking at and went out and bought 4 motels. He's going to buy another 3 in the next 4 months. So he's built up 25 times 7 properties in the matter of months in the multifamily space, where those properties were just rundown motels just months before. So think about what you can do to a single family through 4 family if you're just starting out. Keep your renovations low, set expectations modest, and look at the cash on cash return, look at the debt service coverage ratio, make sure you're doing the right type of renovations to create the enhanced value of the property. Good morning, Justin. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to the discussion this morning. What is your favorite real estate strategy?
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, everybody. Justin down here in the Louisiana market with the great Courtney pre-K here. And I'm going to be quick with my strategy. One of my strategies, right? Well, one of the strategies that I'm leaning into going into 2024, and people talk about it a lot, but I just exited out on my first One is going to be to do the seller finance / owner finance, or sometimes we refer to it as bond for deed down here. So that is going to be my strategy to get my doors up and my cash flow up. Also, part of my strategy is using some other skill sets I have, which is, building, doing like market analysis to figure out what's the best place to get in low. Have a, when I say short / long term win for me is 5 year, kind of 3 to 5 year range that I'm looking at for deals. And then, and so that's just kind of where I'm at to support a consistent growth in my portfolio over the next few years. There are some opportunities down here in Louisiana. Courtney pretty much hit the nail on the head with the stuff she was mentioning. I currently, on my regular job, I picked up a job to just kind of stay afloat with my investment stuff. But what I do is I build houses for Habitat for Humanity has hired our company. So I work for a company that builds houses all over. My PCR is a house in LaFouche Parish, kind of towards the Gulf. And, even if another problem that we're having, right, I was looking for the one that's actually in New Orleans. The house had to be raised about 10 feet off the ground. So this is another problem that we're facing. I just wanted to bring it up real quick. That even if you can't afford the insurance and you can, right, certain places are making you build up out of what they're considering the floodplain area. And that's another problem. And as you can see on my PCR, it's rather inconvenient to be living, a whole story up above you. So when you run away from the water, you end up running right into the wind. So it's just another situation where you can maybe find a way to take advantage of it, right? But it's going to come down to you knowing strategy, you knowing your market, and you knowing where other people can fit in and benefit, and that can allow you to generate some profit. So just keeping your eyes and ears open in your own market or in the markets you're interested in, and being optimistic and finding good people to work with. So that's what I'm on. That's my 2 cents for what I like to do in my market. Though. Appreciate you, man.
Justin, thank you as always. We've had some great deep discussions about your portfolio and where you need to get to. I'm so glad you are en route to that going into 24. Obviously, a lot of you know that I resigned from Burr Loans as National Sales Director, and I'm making some changes for myself, and I'm really looking forward to making some really big announcements over the next week or so. Still working out some, ironing out the final decisions and things, and putting myself in the right position to provide the best options to my clients nationally. Because this is a huge opportunity to be part of a great power team. You want to be a part of a power team, multiple power teams. You want to be around smart people, surrounding yourself with smart, brilliant people, and you want to be able to bounce things off of one another in a humbling, modest way where you don't feel insecure about asking those questions. You want if you don't ask the question, you don't know. You know what you know, and you know what you don't know. So this is a unique opportunity through sources like Clubhouse in identifying potential real estate professionals that could be part of your real estate strategy, whatever your favorite one is, and bounce that off of them to figure out what makes the most amount of sense. Do you have the right credit? Do you have the right cash reserves? Do you have the LLC set up? Do you have the right accountant that understands what your strategy is? Do you have a master LLC and multiple LLCs leading up into the master LLC? That's a whole nother deeper discussion. Do you have a good leasing attorney? Do you have a good litigation attorney? Do you have somebody that structured your LLC? Do you have a registered agent that creates LLCs for you? Do you have a good home inspector? Do you have a good maintenance individual? Do you have a good GC or GCs? I mean, it's endless amount of real estate professionals and services that enhance what your favorite real estate strategy can be. And what I did also here is put a great site up to see where the top rental markets are in the country right now. Building them, I love building them. I use it for my own multifamily portfolio. I mean, this is spot on discussing rental inventory, units added since quarter two 2022, asking rental growth since quarter 22, asking rent, effective rent, multifamily vacancy rate, multifamily cap rate. These are really good. This is really good information to understand. Are one of these markets a market for you to go after? Is that part of your strategy, to be an out-of-state landlord? Or do you rather stay within an hour where you live? You need to make those decisions. And then if you decide to be an out-of-state landlord, are you going to build that? How are you going to build that power team? You have to think through that. Trey, good morning. Long time no see. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to the discussion this morning. What is your favorite real estate strategy?
Hey, brother, good morning. Yeah, I saw you, man. I was like, let me catch up to Joe while I got a second to breathe this Saturday morning. So, always nice to hear your voice, man. Good morning, everyone. Trey Mathis, Macon, Georgia, about an hour and some change south of Atlanta. I'm a bird guy, similar to Joe. Joe, as far as my play, what I'm finding is that with the interest rates doing what they do in the first phase, it became more challenging, the cash flow. And what I end up doing essentially, initially when Derek came into our room and described his by the bed strategy, Derek Forston, in case you all are familiar with him, I didn't have the need to do that at that time, but with the circumstances changing in the first phase, I found myself out of necessity having to go into rent out by the bedrooms or by the bed in order to make the cash flow make sense a lot. And I can still cash flow a decent bit the traditional way, but I just found the need to switching up to rent out by the bedrooms. And my main concern was that I'm in the smaller tertiary market. I'm not in Atlanta. I'm not even in Orlando like a secondary market. I'm in the smaller market. So I was concerned initially that it would be a challenge, finding the clientele to fill up the bedrooms, but that honestly wasn't the challenge so far. So that's pretty much my play, man. Just switching up by the bedroom and by the beds versus the traditional single family rental.
I'm going to play constructive advocate for this. So I owned a rooming house at one time. It was heavy deferred maintenance, a lot of, I would say, soap opera amongst tenants. Are you finding difficulty in maintaining, keeping personalities in check in some type of that type of scenario? Also, how is the community recognizing you doing this? Is there any zoning issues, any considerations? Because from a lending perspective, a lot of lenders in the asset-based lending space, I can tell you for a fact, don't like rooming houses. So is there a master lease and one person's on the side as a guarantor? How is that set up from the leasing perspective?
So the lenders, at least the ones that I particularly use, essentially, as long as the numbers are good as long as the cash flows make sense as far as the rent rates go from a single family perspective, then you know that by the bedroom and by the bed is going to be more than that. They really don't have any issue with the necessary structure, it being like a quote unquote boarding house. I don't particularly refer to it as that, but as long as the cash flows as a single family, I haven't had the issue so far. Now, knock on wood. Macon-Bill County. So Macon has 5 different counties, but Macon-Bill, which is where I mainly operate in, they encourage it, Joe. As far as because we have a homeless, unfortunately, we have a homeless situation,
yeah,
and they see it as an opportunity to kind of help out with the issue. So, matter of fact, I have houses in Jones County, Macon. Now they gave me some issues. I had to go through some issues with that. Had to go down to the planning zone and go to a couple of meetings and kind of describe to them what I'm trying to do and try to describe to them what's the benefit of it. So yeah, you're right. There was some red tape there with that particular county, but Macon-Bill, man, they're all for it, Joe.
So my last question for you, Trey, is there a lease in place for the rent, the total rent accumulation? Like, do you have a master lease, a 12-month signed lease with an entity or a person facilitating all that?
Yes, sir. So I have a LLC that for the holding of my real estate, but I also manage my own properties. I have a separate entity for managing, and I just basically rent to that to that
Got it.
particular one. If it's not if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're a guarantor under the LLC on the lease.
There you go.
Okay, well that's fine, as long as you're the guarantor, then, see, if there is a person that I can grab onto that's on the lease, from a lending perspective, I'm a little skittish when it comes to renting from an LLC to an LLC, but if somebody's willing to sign as a guarantor as the renter, that would be you. And then obviously you have all your insurance and everything to protect you with everybody in that's utilizing the rooms. That can be kind of a workaround, if that makes any sense.
Yes, sir. And let me say this, seeing the one that, thankfully, I'm still corporate America, you guys. And so I thankfully had a former coworker. I switched up companies about a year and some change ago. And a former coworker of mine, as I remember, she was she was a, I have a brain fog, Joe. What do you call it? Social worker. Mm-hmm. She was a social worker, and she thankfully I had to pitch to this woman, but thankfully she was open to helping me managing that side of it. You mentioned that. I gotta be honest with you, I don't look forward to that part of it. I'm not really interested in that managing the personalities. So I kind of thankfully delegated that to her, and paying her. Some, but also teaching her about real estate and the process.
Got it.
So I'm hoping that she comes into it. But yes, sir, that part can be challenging. I will admit that, Joe.
Yeah. No, I owned a 5-unit boarding rooming house in Easton, Pennsylvania. I made a lot of money, but I had it was very hands-on, as I remember. Teresa, did you want to add something real quick before we go to Jim?
Yes, thanks, Joe. Hey, everybody. I'm in the Philadelphia area, as many of you may or may not know. One thing I'm seeing here is we have a terrible homelessness problem. We have so many issues with drugs and people living on the streets. One of the things that I'm seeing now is there are a lot of places in Philadelphia that are trying to open up safe houses, halfway houses. That's an option, but I just wanted to bring to the forefront real quick. Right now what we're seeing is a downturn and upturn, and I learned from so many of my mentors, there's always going to be winter, there's always going to be spring, there's always going to be summer, there's always going to be fall. What we have to learn how to do is navigate each season of life, and that's what I've really seen with a lot of seasoned real estate investors. They've learned how to weather the storms. A lot of people don't know how to weather a storm, and they give up too soon. And we have to remember, because I study the economy, I've been in business for almost 20 years. I'm seeing a lot of apartments going up. Now, I live in a very rural area, and they're building these high rises. They're offering low rent, so they're for lower income. What they're doing, they're building stores and hospitals and doctor's offices. That's what people are looking for. So they're coming up here, they're driving down our values. And I just want to make a point to this, Joe. In Maine, they allotted almost $4 million for 60 families who are not legally in this country. They have allotted them 2-year free rent in a brand new apartment building. More and more states are doing this. We have a homelessness problem, we have a border problem, and we are on the front end of 3 wars. So this is what I'm going to say. The government controls. This is all about control. Do not allow anything to control you. Be an entrepreneur. Do what you got to do, what's best for you. Never be under the control of anything or anybody. Work on yourself first. Weather the storms. Follow the patterns of the seasons, and you will be fine. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Prof. T. Thanks, Teresa. Yeah, listen, if you watch TV too much, you're going to get sucked into a lot of the chaos that's going on through the country. But your middle class right now is the landlord. Your middle class is the real estate professional. You need to earn that keep by being a strategist. You need to embrace challenges. You need to persist in face of setbacks. You need to seek feedback and celebrate the success of others. You need to believe that hard work and strategy are the main factors of success. As you can imagine, having a growth mindset is conducive to real estate investing than having a fixed mindset. You know, some investors are motivated by money. Others are by fear of going back to their 9-to-5 job. Others have nowhere else to go and need to make their investing business work for them. Whenever it is that you use, you have to draw it on every day. You know, that's why I've become very diversified. I've been a real estate investor 30 plus years. I've been a real estate licensed agent 36 years. I've been a licensed banker, 24 years. My wife owns a title company that's national. She owns a property and casualty insurance company that's national. She also offers 1031 exchange. We're a full gamut of opportunity. You need to have spoons in the soup. We also offer unsecured business lines of credit for clients. Everybody always needs money to do deals, it's not just about real estate, it's about business. It's about business to business. So whatever your strategy is, sit down with a group of smart individuals that you trust to figure that game plan out. There's no one time, hey, it's the beginning of the year. Every day is the new year for you as a real estate professional. We come here and tackle real estate strategy discussions every Saturday morning, 8 a.m., every Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. We have some great events coming up in Denver and Philadelphia. We're here to provide a consistent theme of education. We want to be part of your power team. These moderators that have been modded up here are real estate professionals that I've met, most of them, or have done business with, okay? Or have had discussions off of Clubhouse. So stay focused on who you want to surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with the righteous 3 bad MFs, you could burn down a castle. Okay, so keep that all in consideration when you're looking at opportunities for yourself. And my quote this morning to finish off this great room and to finish off this great podcast, episode 2 of the Creative Birth Strategies: you don't need more motivation, you need better habits. Everybody have a blessed Saturday morning. God bless. Take care of yourself. We'll be back here tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with another great subject. I'll be ending the room in the next 30 seconds. And thank you again.